Welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute devotional podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse. Broadcast from the ever-beautiful Sharonville, Ohio, on the sunny side of Cincinnati. Hey, welcome back to Daily Dose Radio. This is your underground source for 5-minute Bible study. We do that every day, Monday through Friday. You can find us on all kinds of platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, Clamor. Of course, we broadcast through Spreaker.com. You can find us on SoundCloud and Tumblr. We're also on Stitcher. So we're all over the place on social media. I hope you'll find us and like us wherever you go. So today we're on the last portion of Psalm 105. This is the last 5 verses of the psalm. The psalm ends just like the psalm previous ended, praise ye the Lord, or in Hebrew, hallelujah. So we have the hallelujah there at the end of the psalm, just like Psalm 104 was, or had it. But we begin with some more of God's dealing with His people while they're in the wilderness wandering. So let me just read that for you. He opened the rock, and the waters gushed out. They ran in the dry places like a river. For He remembered His holy promise, and Abraham His servant. And He brought forth His people with joy, and His chosen with gladness, and gave them the lands of the heathen, and they inherited the labor of the people, that they might observe His statutes and keep His laws. Praise ye the Lord. So again, I just want to make mention that at the beginning of this psalm, I think it was at the beginning of the psalm last week, I mentioned that the goal of the entire psalm is this 45th verse, that they might observe His statutes. That's what the Lord wanted. He delivered them because of His covenant. And He explains that to Abraham in Exodus chapter 6. It's because I made covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I remember my covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And the covenant is to give them the land of Canaan. And now that they're going to receive the land of Canaan, what does the Lord want in return? For them to love Him. That is, that they would observe and keep His statutes and commands. So that's the goal here. They're headed towards promise, and the promise is, once received, that they will, of course, keep the statutes and the laws, because this is a good God who has done all of this just for them. He's not asked them for anything. All He asks now is that they observe His statutes and keep His laws. That's it. So we begin with verse 41. He opened the rock. And of course, you'll remember that story from Exodus chapter 17. The people didn't have any water. They were thirsting to death. Their cattle were thirsting to death. He told Moses to strike the rock at Horeb, and he did, and out gushed a river of water. So the people were able to drink. They had fresh water. Of course, later on in the New Testament, we find out that that rock that followed them was Christ. So the rock that He struck at Horeb was actually Christ Himself, because He's watering His people. Verse 42, He remembered His holy promise, and Abraham His servant. So again, I've already mentioned this, that He has done this because of covenant. That's the only reason. This people is not the greatest people. They're not the largest people. They're not the most beautiful people. They're the people that are bearing covenant. That's the only reason that God is engaging in this kind of activity to deliver them from bondage. Because He made a promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and He's keeping that promise to them. So He remembers His holy promise. Go back to Exodus chapter 6 and look at that. Go back to Exodus chapter 3, verse 5. When He's speaking to Moses at the burning bush, He recites the covenant there as well. And look forward to Exodus chapter 32, there in verse 43. He's reciting the covenant. I've done this because of covenant. Over and over and over again, He says He's doing it because of covenant. And He brought forth His people with joy, and His chosen with gladness, and gave them the lands of the heathen, and they inherited the labor of the people. Praise ye the Lord. And why has He done this? Because of covenant. I hope you'll join me again next week on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. I'm David Smith. The music today has been performed by the Bluegrass Experiment. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time on Daily Dose Radio.